It looks like your girl Kamala Harris is back in the news. She's trying to run for California governor. But will all the lies she told surrounding Biden's cognitive decline come back to haunt her? Let's take a look. Hello, and thank you so much for joining me today. Again, my name is Andrea Banu. And so today we got to talk about your girl, Kamala Harris. It looks like she's running for another office in California. However, we need to find out if people have forgotten how the Californians forgotten about all the lies she told surrounding Biden. Let's take a look.
Welcome back. New reported revelations about former President Biden's alleged decline could haunt former VP Harris if she decides to run for California governor. One Democrat who is running, former LA Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa, telling Politico today, quote, "Those who were complicit in the cover-up should take responsibility for the part they played in this debacle, hold themselves accountable, and apologize to the American people." Well, Antonio Villaraigosa joins me now. One of the ironies here, Antonio, is that should former VP Kamala Harris never run for the presidency in light of the very sad news about former President Biden's cancer diagnosis, is that she may very well be, serving in an actual capacity as some kind of an acting president now while Biden undergoes treatment, had she never run herself for president.
Well, first of all, thank you, Jillian, for having me on the show. Look, I think this book, Original Sin, as I heard Jon Stewart say, has really divulged a complicit, conspiracy, if you will, to keep from the American public the deteriorating condition of President Biden. These are people all around, a coterie of assistants and advisors, seemingly a vice president who had lunch with him on a regular basis, a cabinet member who was participating in those cabinets, whose name was confused, Becerra instead of Becerra, Mayorkas. The fact of the matter is, I've asked a simple question. What did you know? When did you know it? And why didn't you say anything? And as you have said, neither one of them, Javier Becerra, the former HHS secretary, or former Vice President Kamala Harris, have said anything in response. And I think we have a right to know. Look, this isn't just about all of that. This is about the consequences. We had a 100-day election. Look at how that turned out.
Mm-hmm.
We could have had
Antonio,
a candidate.
Though, just want the pushback here, right? The obvious pushback from some Democrats, especially those in the Biden circle, is, this is the job, right, of aides to high-profile politicians to try and disguise the unpalatable realities about them in the interest of gaining power or holding on to power. That's what we did here. What's different?
That's not how I look at it, Jillian.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, I wouldn't want my advisors lying to the public, and I don't think we should expect that from any advisor, Democrat or Republican.
And I would have to agree with him. Yes, these aides are hired to maintain a certain look and, allow him to be presented to the American public in a particular light so that they can maintain power. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong with a human condition. Biden is old. He's in his 80s. These things happen, just like his cancer diagnosis. This is out of his control. So I don't think that actually sharing that with the American public would have hurt his legacy or even negatively impacted the Democrats being able to continue to lead. In my opinion, it would have only benefited them because they showed some level of transparency and honesty, which is what they haven't been able to do these last few years and what the American public were tired of not seeing behind the Democratic Party. So it really, in my opinion, would have benefited them to just come clean about it and say, listen, this is where we are. This is what's happening. This gentleman is, getting old, and we don't think it's going to be in his best interest to continue to either serve or run for another presidency. And I don't think there's any harm in that, because this is something that's just a natural part of life. But standing in front of us all, lying about it day to day is just, like I said, egregious. And for Kamala Harris to be meeting with this man on a continued basis and then continue to lie to the American public and say he was sharp, he is, jovial, he's his, the best he's ever been. It's just like, give me a break. Everybody knew that this was a lie. And then after you feed us all these lies, you want to try to get us to trust you to lead as the president after he's moved out of the way. How do you do that? How do you lie to my face and then, turn around and then ask me to trust you to lead the country when it comes to bigger decision making, bigger decisions? It's just, there's so many flaws behind the decision to just play these kind of games and lie to the American public that really negatively affected the Democratic Party. And they're seeing the ramifications of that decision now. They're seeing the negative effects of those kind of decisions right now.
I'd say the same thing.
Sir, I hate to break it to you, but have you ever been to Capitol Hill for more than 5 minutes?
Well, I actually have. And I'm sorry, I don't agree. I don't think that's your job to hide from the public that the president's condition was deteriorating in the way that it was, that they were doing things to keep from the public that deteriorating health condition on his part. And so that's why I've challenged it. Look, I didn't make this up. I didn't write that book. I am responding to it. And all of you are carrying it because it does have consequences. The consequence of that was that we elected Donald Trump.
There you go.
Who's cutting Medicaid in California and across the country, whose tariffs are disproportionately hurting middle-class families and small businesses. And so, yes, I'm going to challenge that. And no, I don't agree, Jillian, that this should be the normal course of business in politics. I think that's what people are tired of, both Democrat and Republican.
Right, Antonio, I got to let you go. Thank you for taking time with us this afternoon.
So I agree with certain parts. Of course, he's a Democratic candidate, so he's going to have the views of most Democrats in opposing anything that Trump has done, but that's neither here nor there. The truth of the matter is he is doing exactly what Kamala was supposed to do when she ran for president and differentiate herself from what Biden did and presented to the American population. That is what she was supposed to do. But we all witnessed her go on The View and say there's nothing she can think of to separate her from Biden's administration. So pretty much she just told the public, listen, you're going to get more of the same. If you think Biden's doing a bang up job, or whether you think he's doing a terrible job, I ain't going to do nothing no different. And so people sitting at home was like, okay, really? All right. Okay, well, ain't no need to vote for you then. If we don't like how this is being run now, we don't have no choice but to vote for somebody else or stay home. So this gentleman here is doing exactly what he needs to do to win, which is separate himself from the decisions that were made before him by the Democratic Party. But what is your opinion? Do you think that the Democrats were right in hiding the truth behind Biden's health to Americans? Or do you think it would have served them better to just be honest with them so that they could have, moved forward and quite possibly had a better chance of winning in 2024? I would love to hear your opinions. And if you have not already, please do go ahead, share, like, and subscribe. And until next time, this is the Community Ledger. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe and watch the next video by clicking right here.